Spider-Man is the most successful superhero Marvel has ever created. And yet Marvel treats him like this glass figurine sitting on a shelf with a huge ass sign that says, "Do not age, do not change, do not develop." I mean, isn't that kind of wild? Because I'm pretty sure the Spider-Man is literally a character built around the idea of change. I mean, he's a kid who gets superpowers. He makes a bad, selfish decision that impacts him for the rest of his life. And so he spends the rest of his life trying to become better. Now, if that isn't about change, I don't know what is. But, you know, in the mainline comics, Marvel just keeps dragging Peter Parker right back to a permanent, about to peak status. You know, he's not dead, he's not failing, he's not evolving. He's just kind of stuck because every time he progresses, Marvel pulls him right back to that spot. Let me be clear, I'm not saying that Marvel can't write great Spider-Man stories. I mean, they've done a lot. But because Marvel is afraid of what happens when Spider-Man grows up, it's holding them back. So let me be clear, I'm not saying Spider-Man should become Batman with bad posture and a mortgage. I'm saying Peter Parker should be allowed to do the one thing every long-running character needs to do, and that is change in ways that matter to them, matter to the reader. Because if you don't let the character grow, eventually you're not telling a story anymore. You're basically just maintaining a product or a brand. I mean, and that's really the tension here, right? Spider-Man's both a story, but he's also a corporate asset. He's a symbol, a brand, a lunchbox, a theme park ride. I mean, movie franchise, a licensing machine that prints money so hard, it probably has its own gravitational field at this point. I mean, always remember that gimmicks create moments, but creativity creates loyalty. And all these resets, well, they're the ultimate gimmick. So when fans say, "Let Peter grow up," Marvel doesn't hear, "We want deeper stories." Marvel hears, "Please change the most profitable character on Earth." And it scares the hell out of them. And the moment you understand that, you understand the last 20 years of editorial choices related to Spider-Man. Here's Marvel's core fear. Spider-Man is their everyman. He's the hero you project yourself onto. He's young, he's broke, he's overwhelmed, making mistakes, but always still trying. If Peter grows up too much, Marvel worries he stops being relatable. But relatability isn't a static setting, you know, it doesn't always stay the same. Relatability is really a moving target, right? I mean, a teenager's going to relate to teenager Pete. A 25-year-old relates to early adult Peter with all the career stress and relationships and identity issues that come with that. A 35-year-old's going to relate to Peter trying to keep a marriage alive, trying to build a stable life, trying to be a good partner while the universe keeps punching him in the face. I mean, Marvel's acting like the only way to keep Spider-Man accessible is to freeze him in a narrow band of life forever. But how's that relatable to everyone? And that really points out the main monster in all of this. And that is that big old red, huge reset button. I mean, Marvel keeps returning Peter to a default setting because it's safer for onboarding new readers. It's safer for marketing, safer for the overall brand of who Spider-Man is to the world. And the most infamous version of that reset is the one fans still argue about like it happened yesterday. Yeah, you know what I'm going to say. One more day. One More Day isn't just controversial because of what happened. It's controversial because it revealed a bigger story. It actually revealed the editorial philosophy underneath Spider-Man. And that philosophy is that Peter's growth is optional and reversible. I mean, to understand it fully, you have to understand the man behind the decision. Joe Quesada was Marvel's editor-in-chief at the time, and he was direct about his reasoning. I mean, in his own words, he said, "Once a character's married, there's a certain element of fantasy that goes out the window. Suddenly he becomes an adult, and what made Spider-Man special was that he wasn't an adult." Yeah, wasn't an adult. That's the worldview right there. I mean, marriage equals adulthood. Adulthood equals the end of what makes Spider Man special, at least according to Joe. And it wasn't just one argument. Quesada made several. I mean, he argued that 20 years of marriage had made Peter too old, that to ensure Spider Man lasted another 20 or 30 years, the character needed to be single again. The marriage was baggage, it needed to be removed. He argued that a married Peter was no longer relatable to new readers, that Peter's hard luck, struggling status was his most important trait, and that a man with a stable, loving relationship has lost that quality. Yep, that's right. Marriage is boring, according to Joe. I mean, any of you guys out there who are married, men or women, I mean, we all know marriage is just so easy and it gets dull and boring, right? Right? Yeah, exactly. Anyways, he argued that having Peter make a deal with the literal devil to save Aunt May was actually more heroic than getting a divorce, because the divorce would mean Peter and MJ gave up on their love, whereas selling their marriage to Mephisto was a selfless sacrifice. He also argued the reset was necessary to clean up the mess of Civil War, where Peter's secret identity had been revealed to the world. Now, I wonder who made the editorial decision to reveal Spider-Man's secret identity. Well, we'll leave that question for another day. But anyways, Joe goes on to argue that other changes like Peter's organic web shooters were mistakes too. That returning to mechanical web shooters somehow better demonstrated Peter's intelligence. Now, let's take these arguments seriously for a moment, because some of them aren't entirely wrong on the surface. So let's ask ourselves, is Peter more marketable as a young, struggling everyman? Yeah, probably. Does a fresh start make onboarding new readers easier? Sure. I think that's been proven time and again. But here's where the logic starts to fall apart, at least to me. And that is Quesada's core argument, the one everything else really rests on, is that marriage limits storytelling, that a settled, committed Peter Parker has less creative potential than a single one. And that argument has now been disproven, not by theory, not by a fan opinion, but by actual published comics. So let's consider what's happening in the 616 universe right now. You have Mary Jane, who's bonded with the Venom symbiote, right? And then also in the 616, Peter and MJ are no longer married. Okay, so they have these adventures separate from one another. But let's stop and think about what that premise could mean if they were still married. Spider-Man's wife becomes Venom? Yeah, sit with that for a minute, because I don't think there's anything boring about that. That doesn't look like a constraint on storytelling to me. That is one of the most personal, devastating, creatively explosive stories you could possibly have as a comic arc. I mean, the emotional stakes of that story would only exist because that relationship, that marriage between MJ and Peter. A random Venom host is just another villain. But Spider-Man's wife as Venom? I mean, that's a story about love, loyalty, and possible choices. I mean, that's a story that only Peter Parker can tell, and it can only be told if Peter and MJ were married. And you don't even need that specific example. The alternate universes have been proving Quesada wrong for years. I mean, look at all of the various volumes of Renew Your Vows, Spider-Girl, Peter B. Parker from Into the Spider-Verse movies, and most recently, Ultimate Spider-Man. I mean, fans don't just tolerate these versions of Peter, they love them. I mean, they're important to them. They seek them out. They point to them as the Spider-Man stories they actually want to read. The marriage wasn't the problem. The refusal to trust where the marriage could lead and having the creativity to see that was the problem. I mean, Marvel thinks growth is risky, but here's what's actually risky, and that's teaching your audience that nothing matters. Nothing matters in the life of your characters because it could all change in a second and be rebooted. Think about what a reset actually communicates to a reader who's been invested. It says the hours you put into this story, the emotional attachment you built over time to the characters and the events, the payoff that you waited for all that time. Well, we as a publisher, we can delete that whenever we want because when it stops being convenient to us, well, we're just going to reboot. Really? I mean, and the readers hear that message, even if Marvel doesn't say it out loud. I mean, when consequences don't stick, victories don't land. I mean, you can't feel the weight of Peter finally getting something right if you know from experience that Marvel will just take it back. The win is already hollow, I mean, before it even happens. When relationships can be erased, romance just becomes decoration. I mean, the Peter and MJ relationship isn't just beloved because it's well written. I mean, it's beloved because it felt real to people. People had history with it. They saw the tension. They had the payoff. They saw the true love between these two individual characters grow over time, go through pain points together. But through it all, they grew together as a couple. The moment Marvel demonstrated it was disposable, they didn't just lose a relationship of some of their characters. They told readers that no relationship in this universe is safe from this idea of editorial convenience. And when Peter can't progress, the responsibility theme that's so important to his core character starts to ring hollow too. And it's all just a waste of time. Because responsibility isn't supposed to stay the same. It's supposed to compound over time. A teenager learning that his choices have consequences is one kind of story. I mean, but a man in his late 30s who has spent 20 years living with that lesson, making harder choices based on what he had learned, carrying heavier weight, teaching someone else what he learned the hard way. To me, that tells a deeper story. That tells me an emotional weighted story. That's responsibility with actual stakes. And Marvel continues to keep telling the first story over and over on a loop. We never see what comes after. And the more they treat Peter like a brand mascot instead of a person, it just pushes fans closer to those versions of Spider-Man where girth is allowed. The Into the Spider-Verse fans, Renew Your Vows, Spider-Girl from the MC2, all of these aren't niche consolation prizes. They're proof of appetite. I mean, they're your research. Readers aren't rejecting Spider-Man. They're rejecting the loop you've put him in. The audience Marvel is trying to protect Spider-Man for, well, they're quietly finding their exit from the main stories. Here's the proof that goes beyond cult favorites and critical appreciation. In 2023, Marvel launched the new Ultimate Universe line, a separate continuity, clean slate, bold creative swings that was insanely popular. Jonathan Hickman and Mark Cicchetto's Ultimate Spider-Man starred an older, married Peter Parker. There were, as if there had been no reset, no editorial mandate to keep him frozen in time. Just a Peter who actually lived his life, and his life moved on. It routinely, and listen closely, it routinely outsold the Amazing Spider-Man title, their mainline Spider-Man title. Think about that for a second. The version of Spider-Man that Marvel's editorial has spent 20 years insisting readers don't want. The grown-up Peter, the married Peter, the Peter who's allowed to develop. It was outselling their flagship title. I mean, isn't that crazy? And now Marvel's ending the Ultimate Universe, including Ultimate Spider-Man. But, you know, I got to be fair. The ending was contractually planned from the start. Jonathan Hickman, the writer on the story, built a conclusion into his deal because he had seen what Marvel had done in the way of milking the original Ultimate line and even his most recent X-Men run way past their natural endpoints. And I don't think he wanted that to happen again. So in some ways, ending it cleanly is actually the right call in my book. I mean, it's a story with a real ending, instead of a brand-shaped husk down the road. But if you step back, the pattern is still there. I mean, Marvel had a version of Peter Parker that readers were choosing over their main Spider-Man title. And rather than ask what that signal meant for Amazing Spider-Man, rather than let that success inform what they do with the character going forward, the ultimate line ends. Miles Morales returns to Earth 616, and the mainline Peter Parker continues his permanent holding pattern, stuck in the loop. This is where I got to say the audience sent a pretty clear message to Marvel, I think. And Marvel's response, oh, let's just shelve that experiment. Yeah, let's shift for a moment. I want to talk about Spider-Man working better as a grown character because now he isn't only relatable as a teen or a struggling 20-something. He becomes relatable as a human being moving through life. I mean, that's the entire superpower of Spider-Man as a concept. It's not the webs. It's the fact that he's always trying to do better. He wants to do better for himself, for his loved ones, for the people around him, for everyone. So why does Marvel keep hesitating on this? I think they confuse the idea of keeping Spider-Man fresh for people with the idea of freezing or keeping him frozen. But the sales data has now told Marvel at least twice that they're wrong. I mean, here's what Marvel should do. If they actually want long-term stability, let Peter Parker age into his next phase. Late 30s, early 40s, still Spider-Man, still athletic, still quick, still witty, still funny, but the stakes evolve. I mean, consider this. He's married to MJ because that's the relationship that's the most iconic in comics, if you ask me. And pretending it's disposable, I think, is just crazy and insane. He's a father because responsibility as a theme becomes nuclear when you have children or people that you're responsible for and who depend on you. And here's the key. You don't have to replace Spider-Man or Peter. You don't have to make Miles the only Spider-Man. You don't have to sideline anyone. I mean, you do what every great superhero mythos does. You broaden their world and their impact. I mean, think of Peter. Peter can become the experienced Spider-Man. Miles continues as the younger Spider-Man who has his own voice, his own community, his own stories. And instead of Spider-Man being one character that's kind of trapped in amber that never changes, Spider-Man becomes what he already is culturally. And that is, he's a legacy. He's a symbol with multiple lenses. That, to me, is how you build a stable universe. I mean, not by deleting progress. You do it by stacking it. I mean, again, gimmicks create moments. Creativity creates loyalty. And letting Peter grow is the creative move that buys you decades. I mean, here's the irony that should keep Marvel's editorial team up at night, if you ask me. They ran the experiment, right? I mean, not in theory, not as a thought exercise, as an actual comic book that actual readers bought every single month. An older Peter Parker, a married Peter Parker, a Peter Parker who was allowed to grow up. And it outsold their flagship title. I mean, Marvel didn't need a focus group or a think piece or even a fan petition to know what readers wanted. They had the data. It was sitting right there in front of them. They had the sales numbers month after month telling them the same thing. Peter Parker doesn't lose readers when he grows up. He gains them. Let me say that again. Peter Parker doesn't lose readers when he grows up. He gains them. Okay. But here's what Marvel keeps missing in this entire conversation. We always talk about kids needing heroes that they can see themselves in. And that's true. I mean, young Peter Parker has done that for generations of readers. But kids also need heroes they can look up to, especially in today's world. A grown-up Spider-Man doesn't just show kids how to be brave. He shows them what it looks like to be a good person, a good partner, a good parent, a good mentor. Imagine for a second a kid reading a comic where Peter picks his daughter up from school after stopping a bank robbery, where he apologizes for missing dinner but explains why helping people matters, where he and MJ support each other through the hard things, where he sits with Miles and talks about not just how to fight, but how to live. That kid just isn't seeing a superhero or reading about a superhero. They're seeing their dad, their teacher, their older brother, the adult in their life who keeps showing up even when it's hard. That's what Peter Parker could be. That's what he should be. Not just a hero for a kid who picks up their first comic, a hero for every stage of life. Spider-Man isn't great because he stays the same. Spider-Man's great because he keeps trying, even when life won't stop hitting him. Spider-Man isn't great because he stays the same. Spider-Man's great because he keeps trying, even when life won't stop hitting him. That's a theme that gets richer with age, not thinner. I mean, Marvel is so committed to protecting the character that they keep making choices that solely drain what makes the character special and worth protecting. Be creative, Marvel. Don't be gimmicky. So, whether you agree with my opinion or not, I'd love to hear what Peter Parker's life looks like right now if you had full creative control. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share it with somebody who needs to hear this argument, because believe me, trust me, every Spider-Man fan out there has an opinion about this or feelings about this. So please do that. Follow me on all my socials. The links are down below, and come hang out. Again, I hope to see you soon. And the next video is already up. DC's Absolute Universe, why it's working and what Marvel can learn from it. This one connects directly to everything we just talked about. So make sure you go and watch it right now. All right. Stay geeky, my friends. Stay geeky. And I will see you all next time. Later.